Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the real United States. I'm your host, Paul Campbell, and behind the camera, as always, our cinematographer and my wife, Beverly Campbell. Welcome to the 2014 Washington, D.C. Auto Show. We're here at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in downtown Washington, D.C. for this year's auto show. Now, in the past, we've done some car shows, and I want to point out that here in the United States, at least in general vernacular, with antique cars, we refer to them as car shows. New models, we refer to them as auto shows. These are put on by the manufacturers to show off the newest and greatest models that are coming out. Now this year, I understand there are in excess of 700 new models here at the Washington Convention Center, representing about 42 different manufacturers. So there's a lot to take in. There's 2 floors. It covers about 3 blocks. This convention center is huge. So we're going to try and take in as much of this as possible to share with you, and we're probably going to be here for the next several hours, but hopefully when you're watching it's only the next few minutes. So come along and join us for the 2014 Washington Auto Show. So as we progress around this floor, which is where most of the domestic models are, it's a little overwhelming. Chevrolet has the front of the building with Chevy and Buick and GMC. We're now getting back to here to Chrysler and of course Jeep. And with 700 models here, I'm not even really quite sure what to say about any given one. This one, of course, the red struck our eye. Beautiful 4-door Jeep Wrangler. And I think that this whole show definitely fuels America's love affair with the automobile. I have no idea how we are going to take in even a fraction of the cars that are on display here. Certainly, they've gone to a lot of effort in the display. We've noticed on some of the vehicles, when they set them up, they must have lifted them and rolled the tires around to get the hubs exactly in the right direction so the logo was square to the world. Kind of an interesting thing that most people don't notice, I don't think. But certainly a gorgeous vehicle. This bad boy right here, $22,695 US dollars, according to the sign here, is what the list price on that vehicle is. Okay, one of the things I would also like to point out is, in addition to the passenger vehicles that you're going to see here and light trucks, there are some light commercial vehicles. This is a Dodge ProMaster Cube van, brand new one. And so there are some commercial vehicles here. And I think as we get on to other parts of the show, you may see some other larger commercial vehicles. We're going to walk around this one a little bit. Kind of a nice vehicle, very plain, but it is, after all, a cargo vehicle. So Bev, come on and join me around here. The Dodge Ram ProMaster. It's an eco diesel. I'm not sure what eco means in this particular case. Diesel is very popular among commercial vehicles, obviously, for a number of reasons, especially if you're carrying any significant amount of weight. Pretty typical of recently designed vehicles, trying to increase the aerodynamics of it, streamline it, not the old square-faced cube vans of the past. You'll see that this has a much more sloping front to give it some aerodynamic characteristics. They don't have a price listed on this. I suppose that probably depends on what features you were going to have included. Now, I want to point out that one of the things we've got going here is not only these 2015 vehicles, there are a few 2016 vehicles that are here that won't actually be available until sometime in May or after this year. But some of the vehicles here are the 2016 model year, even though it's only January of 2015. Next to the ProMaster, here is a regular consumer van. Very similar styling, but on a much smaller scale, obviously. Vans have largely given way in the United States to minivans and sport utility vehicles, but a few of them do still exist. So if you are in the habit of carrying cargo and you want it in and out of the weather, you don't want to use a pickup truck a van is still a viable option here in the United States. A lot of these platforms, even the turning ones, what they've done is they've brought a single wire right up from the center underneath the vehicle so they could connect power to the power system of the vehicle so they could have the lights on, either the running lights or tail lights, some of them even the headlights, without having to drain the battery of a vehicle. So this can run all day long throughout the course of the show off a house power, and it's relatively inconspicuous unless you're really looking for it. So that's why you're seeing the lights on some of these vehicles. It's actually not being fed from the vehicle's battery. Well, guys, I want to tell you, that is one big truck. It's a 3/4 ton, 6.4 liter Hemi Dodge, 4-door. And yes, it has an 8-foot box. So a 4-door with an 8-foot box makes for a very, very long truck. But this is the sort of thing people would probably buy if they had a large farm or some sort of commercial operation, small construction company, landscaping company, something like this. So you carry personnel and a lot of cargo. Now, here is where I'm bound to offend someone. On this floor, I told you, where the domestic vehicles and the foreign or import cars were on the lower level of the convention center. Well, Toyota is represented up here with all of the domestic models. Okay, Toyota does build an enormous number of cars domestically here in the United States. They have factories in several places in the United States, so they do produce cars domestically. As I understand it, though, Toyota is still largely owned by the Japanese. So whether the ownership or where it's produced determines whether it's a domestic car, well, I'll let you decide, but I don't know. I'm an old guy. I don't think of Toyota as a domestic car company. Sorry, folks. But they have a very big presence up here. As I said, General Motors is in the front, Chrysler after that, now Toyota through here, and then towards the back of this particular pavilion that we're in, Ford Motor Company has a large display along the back. Now, I am by no means an expert in automobiles. Although I did work in the automotive industry for many years as a tooling designer, I've been away from it for a while, and I have no idea all the nuances of the different things with the electronics that they've added to vehicles over the last few years, the hybrids and the fully electrics and all these sorts of things. So I can't really share with you all the finite details, but obviously all of that's available right there on the web for you, so it probably wouldn't be of much value to you anyway. Fuel cell research.
In the middle, you have a fuel cell stack, and that's where the magic happens. So hydrogen is pumped into the fuel cell stack where it combines together with oxygen that is drawn in from the atmosphere. If you're in the front of the vehicle, you can see those kind of series intakes we have in the front. That reaction is going to produce a chemical reaction to produce electricity that's going to power the electric motor. It only initially comes out the tailpipe and uses a little bit of water vapor. So truly zero emissions vehicle, very cool stuff. Vehicles rather. With a few exceptions, you're going to have a relatively limited range, anywhere from 50 to maybe 150 miles on a full charge. On the Toyota Mirai, you'll have a 300-mile range on a tank of hydrogen. So you hook it up to the pump, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes, and you'll have a 300-mile range again, and you're on your way. So all the conveniences you're used to with your gasoline vehicle, but also all the advantages environmentally of a zero-emissions car. Now, one other advantage, and this is something, Toyota sees this not just in what's going to power automobiles in the future, but also what's going to power our entire society. They call it the hydrogen society. And to get ready for that hydrogen society, they have actually made the Mirai into a mobile generator for your home. So you have the capacity to actually hook this up to your home. That's what this little thing represents right here. Something called power takeoff. It's the only factory option on this vehicle. But with the correct wiring at your home, you can hook this up to your home and power all your essentials for up to about a week with the hydrogen on board. So you have a zero emissions generator sitting right in your garage. So seeing the vehicle as more than just a transportation device, also power generation, this is what we see for the future. Now, with all this stuff I just mentioned, you're probably thinking, why have we not seen these cars on the road just yet with all these great advantages? Does anybody want to take a guess for my first prize as to why we don't see these on the road just yet? Very good, that's right. The infrastructure. So where are you going to fill up your hydrogen fuel cell vehicle? Now, you probably noticed there's not a whole lot of hydrogen refueling stations here in DC just yet, but that's all about to change. Now, starting in California, we've got about a $200 million grant that's already in place there. We're building about 17 new stations as we speak, and up to about 100 new stations over the next 10 years, just with that grant.
Okay, now here, folks, we've got something that's essentially a SUV, but it's not, I don't know, in my opinion, not quite an SUV. This is the Ford Flex. It's a four-door with an area in the back for cargo or probably another set of passenger seats. This bad boy, $44,777 US. So, I don't know. To me, it seems like a relatively expensive vehicle. It's a beautiful vehicle, very nice. Certainly, it has over $7,000 worth of options on it. This is like one of the premier packages, so part of that whole cost figure I gave you actually is included as all the extra amenities that have been added to this particular package. So certainly this bad boy is loaded up with everything you could possibly imagine, I guess. Kind of difficult to work in around here to give you a shot maybe of the interior. Has a center console shifter. It's got more electronics on it. I would probably need to go back to school just to be able to figure out how to drive this thing, but certainly is look comfortable, and it's a pretty vehicle. All the electronic controls on the door, everything you, like I said, it's got just about everything you could possibly want. Now what we want to do is we want to take you over and I want to show you the new Ford F-150 pickup. One of the most popular selling vehicles in the United States, perhaps in the world. But the cool thing about this is the first of them that has an all aluminum body. They've taken out about 700 pounds out of the vehicle weight by making it out of aluminum. Now, I was still working in the automotive industry as a tool designer at the time that these sorts of things were being discussed and hadn't been overcome some of the logistical problems in the manufacturing process of aluminum, but they apparently have in the last decade, and we have. It's interesting they chose their display piece to be sort of aluminum colored, but it's a gorgeous vehicle and apparently significantly lighter than the old steel frames, and yet still very, very strong. Certainly strong enough to meet the federal safety standards here in the United States, which are relatively stringent. Give you some idea of the scale of this. This is somewhat taller than my F-50 was, which was only maybe a decade ago. The 2015 North American Truck Utility of the Year. Give you a little peek inside, folks. Some of the instrumentation and amenities. I suppose I can get in here relatively comfortably. It's got a nice little handle here for me to grab a hold of. certainly has enough leg room even for somebody my size. Again, it's got all this electronic touchscreen stuff here that's become very popular in the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm not quite sure what is even it's used for. We have very basic vehicles, Bev and I. There's just a whole lot of buttons in here. Looks like a spaceship. Same sort of vehicle here, the F-150, different color scheme. Nice trucks, I've owned a couple of them. Always had very good service out of them. Now I will say one of the things about this auto show, which is a little frustrating, is that almost none of the display vehicles here have pricing information on them. You have to find somebody, track them down, and ask them. So it's not something that they're eager to volunteer, and given the price of new vehicles, I can't say I necessarily blame them. Because a lot of these, well, again, sticker shock, you know, I mean, I'm used to vehicles not being quite so expensive, and so they have not included, and again, that, in all fairness, that's probably largely because a vehicle's price is going to depend largely on the amenities that come with it.
That one's like yours. I was going to say, except for...
They've added all these cool little toys to trucks over the last few years. This is a step that pulls out of the top of the tailgate, and a handle to hang on to. It's even telescoping. So you can grab a hold of that, step there, and step right up into your pickup. I mean, it's nice, but it's an awful lot of toys.
These old ladies like me can get in the back of their pickup.
Actually, Bev has a relatively easy time getting in and out of the pickup, just stepping on the step bumper, but I'm sure this is something that she's getting to that age where she would enjoy to have, since we do drive trucks. If we can get down here and show you this is what I was talking about under the display vehicles, where they have added a cord to hook into the house power so that they can run the exterior lights, headlights, taillights, all the lighting, the sound systems and everything off of the house power without having to deplete the vehicle's battery. I don't know if that's particularly interesting to anyone or not, but that is how it's done. Aside from the hydrogen cell vehicle that we saw earlier, there is obviously a lot of focus on newer vehicles to be either partially or entirely electric. And again, part of the problem is a lack of infrastructure to support these. Whether it's a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle or it's an electrical vehicle, there is, as of yet in the United States, still a significant gap in the infrastructure to power these vehicles. You know, to recharge your electric vehicle or to fuel up with hydrogen for your hydrogen fuel cells. We don't have the infrastructure yet. It's coming, people are working on it, it's being built, and it actually is happening. And maybe at some point we'll actually be able to do an episode on that if we can encounter some of it. But a large push for electrical vehicles, and it's outstripping the infrastructure to support it. Okay guys, Ford Mustang convertible. Really? Do I have to say any more? I mean, this is like a babe magnet. Sorry dear, but that's just the way life is.
We got a plan.
We got going down and back. Down to the house.
Interestingly enough, according to the statistical data they have here, it's telling me that this vehicle gets 26 miles to the gallon on the highway. A far cry from the early days of the Mustang in the 1960s. This, folks, is another Chrysler product. This is the 2015 Dodge Dart. Kind of a pretty metallic blue. Good deal smaller than they were when I was a boy, but still a very pretty car. Starting price, $16,495 US. So, relatively inexpensive car by many of the standards that I have seen here today. And seems to be, you know, a very, very nice car, very pretty. Again, that price is going to largely depend on all the bells and whistles, all the amenities that you have in addition to the base vehicle. But that's the starting price, $16,495. Again, you can see trending very, very low slope to the windows, trying to keep the aerodynamics, trying to keep inside of what are called the CAFE standards, and these are the auto efficiency standards for engines and the number of miles per gallon that they can get. So they've tried to accomplish part of that through weight, part of it through new engine designs, and of course a lot of it through aerodynamics. See, everybody seems to be having a very good time. They're just oohing and on over all the new cars. Well, folks, obviously no car show would be complete, no auto show would be complete without lovely young women dressed very nicely in their formal attire. This one's no exception. Now, most of the presenters or models here are not at liberty to speak on camera directly with us to do interview questions, but I thought I would take this opportunity to sneak in some footage and let them be pissed off at me later. So, but most of the pavilions that have cars that are on display up on a platform like this, whether it's moving or not, have a presenter who has historically been a young woman, an attractive young woman, dressed up very, very nicely. Again, it's relatively formal attire that they wear. They are actually quite knowledgeable about the product that they are presenting, and they do quite a nice job of answering our questions. They just aren't at liberty because of contractual arrangements to speak on camera with us. So that's why we're not doing any interviews with any of the presenters here today. Okay, when somebody says Mercedes-Benz to me, this is what I see. I don't picture any of the other models. The SL is the vehicle that I picture. This is the 400 SL. Beautiful sports car. The SL series has been a beautiful, beautiful series in its entire lifespan. And definitely the car of my dreams, probably of many people's. This particular car lists starting at $84,000 US. And certainly depending on the amenities is going to go up from there. Absolutely perfect color, gorgeous ride, gorgeous feel, and certainly all of the amenities you could possibly want. All, again, probably more buttons in here than the Space Shuttle. Console shifter, just a beautiful interior, very, very comfortable. Even for a man my size, this is a very nice ride. Just a gorgeous interior. And a convertible, no less, so which is nice now that we're not living quite so far north in the United States, and you can get a lot of months of use out of this. So the Mercedes 450 SL, or SL 400 rather, 84,000, obviously out of the reach of the average consumer in the United States, but certainly within the reach of many, many people here in the United States. So not an unreasonable aspiration for people here. So I'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Real United States. We hope you've enjoyed the 2015 Washington Auto Show. We hope you'll pick, subscribe, and join us for future episodes if you haven't already. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. I love hearing from all of you. I try to get back to everybody as soon as I possibly can. And as always, thank you for watching.